often terms like child labor, child exploitation, sex trafficking, labor trafficking, human trafficking are considered synonymous, and they are in fact, from a legal distinction, they are not. And I think it's important to also contextualize the current definition in a historical framework. So first, our current anti-trafficking laws are based on a federal law passed in 2000. This law is called the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, which created new crimes of forced labor, sex trafficking, and involuntary servitude with respect to trafficking, peonage, slavery, and sex trafficking. And these crimes are intended to be new tools for law enforcement to address these cases. One of the main differences in these crimes in this act from prior statutes is addressing coerce and compel labor, is that they address the new law under the Trafficking Victims Protection Act addresses both psychological as well as physical forms of coercion. And I think this is really important when we talk about children, because what we know based on research across several disciplines is that children's brains and bodies work differently than adults. So psychological coercion can have a much more dramatic impact on children. In fact, when I was practicing as an attorney and representing survivors of trafficking, many of my clients would often say, I did this work because this adult who I trusted told me to do it. And that's all it took. And even though the legal framework accounts for physical abuse, sexual abuse, and other types of harm to compel and coerce labor, which also, unfortunately, many of my clients experienced, but it also addresses that, it acknowledges the fact that psychological abuse and coercion and trickery and fraud can be equally as compelling of a form of tool of control over a child or an adult. But I think with the context of children, this is uniquely important to address. The Trafficking Victims Protection Act also provided protections for victims who were trafficking. For those who are undocumented, it provided them access to legal forms of relief to be able to access benefits that they normally wouldn't have access to, as well as access to immigration remedies that they normally would not prior to the TVPA. And subsequent laws and regulations have also addressed the trafficking, both labor and sex, of domestic or U.S. citizen children and provided additional services, protections, outreach, and advocacy around that.